Hi everyone! Today I want to talk about something a lot of self-sufficiency advocates have tried to figure out at some point. Eating fresh fruit year round. Because let's be honest, summer and autumn, they aren't the problem. That's when everything explodes with abundance. But once winter sets in, and what's left to pick? Well, right now, this is what I got. Don't worry, we'll come back to those in a bit. Let's discuss the end of the main fruit season first. A lot of people don't realize how much they can stretch some fruits into winter. Apples, pears, or trees like the quince will easily stretch into early winter. Flowering quince and Chinese quince will push it even further still. Fruits will take a little bit of frost and still be fine to eat. Although with quince it's more of a processing fruit. But I have seen apples, flowering quince holding fruit well into midwinter. You also have plants like this pomegranate or kiwi vines, passion fruit vines, as well as many hardy citrus, which can produce into early winter because the rind of the fruits will protect them through early frost. But once frost get a bit more intense, you'll have to pick them and store them. Tejocote, as well as many other hawthorns, such as azarolis or Chinese hawthorn, often hang into early winter, though not all of them are great raw. It really depends on the species we're talking about. Same thing for ash berries, by the way. You also have some fruits, like this persimmon, but as well as medlar or sorb tree, which in most varieties are astringent and require blooding. Essentially, you wait till the fruit softens, but they don't store super long in that state. I've had persimmons in late December which were half rotten, so either grow non-astringent types or eat them before they start rotting. You also have plants like sea buckthorn, which makes really sour berries, or aronia berries, which are astringent, but once dried or made into jellies, they're truly incredible. Others can also be surprisingly cold resistant. This is feijoa, a type of guava. It did produce for me last year well into December, and fruits weren't affected by -6 degrees Celsius. -10 degrees Celsius though, that's too much for the fruits. In mild regions, variety like Edenvale Late can even stretch ripening into midwinter. Plants like this Uni molonai, also a type of guava, they're not as cold tolerant, but I believe their fruits can handle just as much cold, and thus you can keep harvesting into early winter. Another plant that is very closely related is the huarapo. It's even more cold resistant, but it's also more sensitive to drought. But they can produce until midwinter, even in temperate regions. Another one that doesn't seem bothered by frost is the strawberry tree. They overwinter on the tree, grow during the year, and ripen in autumn. From trees that were growing in shaded environments, I've been able to harvest without any issues until the new year. Some trees have bland fruits, others have pretty good fruits with a flavor that I would describe as a melting peach, but with a grittiness that is not unlike a pear. But once we move into the depths of winter, options become more difficult. Gaultherias, a relative of this blueberry, typically hold fruit through winter, and they dry up when spring arrives. Gaultherias, at least the ones I've had, have a minty note with a bit of a bubblegum flavor, but you need acidic soil, otherwise they won't make it, and blueberries seem to be a little more forgiving in my experience. Except blueberries don't fruit in winter. Lingonberries, a close relative, does. Same for crowberries. I would also like to mention barberries, some of which are grown as ornamentals and have sour berries which hang through winter. They do require cooking though because they're sour. Think lemon juice with a hint of blueberry. You could also use rose hips. Well, this is a blackberry, but that's the closest thing I have in terms of looks. The Japanese rose has the largest fruit, but most species will have fruits that overwinter. But be careful, only use the red part of the fruit. The seeds inside have a hairy coating which is unpleasant and itchy. There's also some ornamental plants that you can use. cotoneaster, and pyracantha have bitter fruits, but you can make jellies out of them. Of course, hardy citrus like this yuzu or citrandrons, euxandrons, citrumelos, citranges are important for winter fruits, but only some types have fruits that handle frost. Typically ones that don't drop the fruits once ripe and have thick rinds that insulate the pulp inside. I've recently grown Thomasville citranquat, and because it has a thin rind, Thomasville fruits take damage as soon as temperatures drop around -5 degrees Celsius. But some hybrid citrus, like Staraji, a mandarin hybrid, actually have a thick rind and will have fruits over winter at -10 degrees Celsius just fine. I think we need to try out many different trees to see which ones overwinter, but at least you have one you can seek to have fruits literally all winter. And if you're patient enough, in late winter, once temperature rise again, you'll be able to pick some other fruits. Hardy cacti can overwinter fruits just fine. Other hardy prickly pears, as well as cholas and possibly other cacti, might have the same ability, but that remains to be seen. I'm still experimenting. These fruits turned a bright pink color during winter, and while they were initially rock hard, about a month ago they started softening. Now they're still hard, but much less than before, and they can actually last on the plant until summer. Well, of course, it's not pulpy like classic prickly pears are, but it's a winter ripened fruit. Yeah, and they taste pretty good. Like prickly pear, not quite as sweet, and slightly slimier. Overall, it's pretty good, especially since we don't have much to eat at this time of the year. If you want something that ripens in early to mid-spring, Mahonia berries are closely related to barberries. They're like a sour blueberry in a way, and they make truly incredible jellies. The Liagnus ebengay, it's a common plant in hedges as an ornamental, and yet it produces berries, which people don't even know they can eat. They don't always ripen at the same time for me. It depends on weather, but typically fruits ripen around March or April. Right now, in early April, first fruits are starting to ripen. And they tend to be quite astringent. To me, they taste like a mix of citrus and raspberry. They make really excellent jellies, but you can eat them as is and even crunch the seed as it is super nutritious. They can be a bit of an acquired taste, but well-ripened fruits are quite good. Not all shrubs have really good fruits, but because it's a common ornamental plant, just walk around your neighborhood and you might be able to find a few shrubs that have good berries. I know of one, for example, with no astringency. And once you're done with silverberries, the gap is over, and you have things like these honeyberries that ripen around mid-May for me, as well as the first strawberries, the first cherries, the first Nanking cherries, the first service berries, and even ume and early mulberries, if your climate allows it. For me, well, they get hit by frost. There's one other tree I'd like to mention. This is loquat. The problem in colder regions is that it flowers in autumn or in winter, and frost basically destroys the crop. However, I have read that grafted onto quince, loquats bloom later, around late winter, so you might be able to get a crop of fruit around May or maybe June or July, depending on your climate and the variety. Overall, I'd be lying if I said you'd be harvesting baskets of fruits in January, just like you would in July. But if you combine late hanging fruits, fruit that store, fruits that handle cold, as well as some winter or early spring producers, you can stretch your harvest season much further than most people think, and basically get fruit year-round. Not continuous abundance, but continuity. And I mean, for someone like me, just having something to do and to pick in the garden, no matter the season, is exciting. And it stops winter from being a dead season. It's just a quieter one. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. This video was half scripted, so tell me if you enjoyed it, and I might do more like it. I'll see you next week in my slice of tropics. Goodbye!